Hello, my name is Victoria, but you can call me Tori. Please like and subscribe. Growing up, it was just my dad, me, and the farm animals at his ranch. I had no siblings, and my mom worked overseas. Marcelo was my only friend, and together, we got into all kinds of mischief at the ranch. A few days after he left with his dad, guilt was eating me up, and I missed him a lot. So I confessed and begged Dad to give Mr. Diego his job back.
It's too late. I already hired someone else.
That was the last we ever spoke of Mr. Diego and Marcelo. And after that, life at the ranch became so boring. By the time I was in high school, I was pretty much a loner and only had one friend, my horse, Firefly. One day, while out exploring, Firefly skidded to a halt, sending me flying into some bushes. Ow! That's not nice, Firefly!
That was fun to watch.
Firefly? Since when can you talk? I must have hit my head because now Firefly was laughing. I sat up just as a boy walked towards me. Who are you?
I'm the guy who spooked your horse. You should have seen the look on your face as you took a nosedive.
Who was this jerk? You're trespassing. This is my dad's ranch.
What are you going to do? Tell Daddy?
Suit yourself. Keep lurking in the bushes like a creep. I climbed back on Firefly and headed home, not knowing that my life was about to get very interesting. The next day, I walked into class to find Dana, the head cheerleader, with her hand around another girl's throat.
I can't believe you kissed my boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend, you psycho.
Just then, someone blew a whistle right next to my ear. I turned, ready to shove the whistler away, and imagine my surprise when I saw it was the jerk I'd met at the ranch. What was he doing in my class?
Ladies, calm down. There's enough of me to go around. I've got time for you both.
The girls both lunged at him and landed blows all over him while he laughed and blew kisses at them.
Fight!
I grabbed one of the girls and pulled her away. Stop it, both of you! Can't you see he's enjoying it?
Hey, Nosedive, don't ruin my fun. You can join in too.
I'd rather eat glass. And my name's not Nosedive. It's Tori.
I didn't ask. That's enough. Let's all take our seats. Everyone, please welcome Mark, your new classmate. But I see some of you have already met him.
Mark sat next to me, much to my annoyance. Throughout the day, he kept stretching his leg and stepping on my feet. I'd kick it away, but he'd kick back harder. Seriously, what was his problem? Just then, my phone rang, and I immediately knew I was in trouble.
You all know I don't allow phones ringing in my class. Tori, hand it over. You'll pick it up at the end of the week.
But…
If you protest, I'll take it away for 2 weeks. The phone's mine, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't know you had a no-phone rule. Well, in that case, turn it off.
Mark grinned at me, turned my phone off, then put it in his backpack.
You're welcome.
I eyed him suspiciously, wondering why he was being nice to me all of a sudden. After class, Mark took off with my phone. Hey! Give me back my phone! I ran after him, but by the time I reached him, he was already reading my texts.
Oh, look. It's a text from Daddy. He rented out the theme park for your birthday. How sweet.
I grabbed my phone and walked away to go call my dad. During the next class, I told everyone about my birthday at the park, and even though none of them were exactly my friends, they said they'd attend just so they could try out all the fun games. When the day finally came, our first stop was the Ferris wheel, but a guard blocked our entry.
I'm sorry. The Ferris wheel has been booked for our special guest.
But my dad booked…
Look, here's the guest coming now. Please move out of the way.
I turned, expecting to see some celebrity, only to see… Mark? You're the special guest?
Yeah. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a Ferris wheel to enjoy, all by myself.
How did he even get the guard to do this? As I watched the Ferris wheel start, I was overcome with rage. So I ran and jumped up and grabbed the cart he was sitting in. I will not let you ruin my birthday!
You're crazy.
And you're a jerk! Why do you hate me so much?
I don't hate you.
Then what is it? We were high up in the air now, and I was dangling from the cart, my legs swinging helplessly.
Grab my hand.
I reached out for Mark's hand and he pulled me into the cart. Thank you.
You better sit and buckle up.
As soon as we got back to the ground, Mark jumped out of his seat and walked away. I still didn't know why he was acting the way he was, but I had a birthday to celebrate. All right, guys, we can all ride the wheel now. A few days later, I was walking around a jewelry store when the door opened and in walked Mark. He saw me, smirked, and walked right toward me.
Fancy meeting you here.
Buying matching necklaces for your girlfriends?
Are you jealous?
You wish. I shoved past him, suddenly not in the mood to shop anymore. Just then, he grabbed my bag and pulled me back.
Hey, Tori, wait. Have a great day.
As I walked out of the store, an alarm went off.
Hey, you. Stop right there.
I froze in place as a security guard grabbed my bag and ordered me to follow him. Hey, give me my bag back! I didn't do anything wrong!
You can explain yourself to the manager. Let's go.
The guard led me to a room at the back of the store. I walked in, ready to defend myself, but all the words died in my throat when I saw who was sitting behind the manager's desk. Mark, what are you doing in here? He pointed at the sign on the desk. I don't understand. You work here?
Not really. My dad owns the store and I manage it.
Just then, the guard poured the contents of my bag on the table, and out fell a bracelet. I don't know how that got in there.
Shoplifting is an offense, you know. I'll have to report you.
He must have put it in there when he grabbed my bag. Why are you doing this to me? Mark didn't answer me. Instead, he picked up his phone and dialed 911.
You have two options. You can clean the store for a month, or I'll make a report.
What? There's no way. He pressed the call button. Fine, I'll do it. Now hang up. Mark smirked, and I clenched my fists. As agreed, I cleaned the store every day after school. One evening, the store was closed and it was just Mark and I inside. I was standing on a stool, busy dusting the shelves, when the lights went off. A few seconds later, there was a loud bang as the front glass window shattered. I jumped off the stool and landed in the bucket of water I'd been using to clean. As I struggled to get up, someone grabbed my arm and I screamed again.
Shh, stay down and stop screaming.
What's going on?
We're being robbed. I need to trigger the alarm. Stay here.
Mark crawled on all fours toward his office, but a masked man grabbed him and dragged him to his feet.
Don't move!
The bad guy had his back to me, so I grabbed the bucket and hit him on the head with it. His knees buckled and he went down, releasing Mark in the process. Mark, run! We bolted and jumped through the broken window, falling onto the empty street outside.
I think you saved my life.
You're welcome. Police arrived and arrested the burglar. They recorded our statements, then told us to go home.
Come on, I'll drive you home.
No thanks. You've saved my life, now I've saved yours. We're even. Now can you leave me alone? As I walked away, Mark grabbed my hand and turned me towards him.
How can you not remember me, Tori? You used to be your best friend.
I continued to stare at him, still confused.
It's me, Marcello.
It took a while for me to recover from that bombshell. I stared at Marcello, wide-eyed. What?
Surprise.
Oh my god, it's really you! I went to hug him, but he pushed me away. Right, he was angry at me. Marcello, I'm so sorry for what I did to you and your dad. I was so afraid and I panicked. I didn't know Dad would fire your dad. Now I understand why you hate me so much.
I don't hate you. I'm just mad at you.
So, what happens now? You torture me for the rest of my life?
That was the plan, but I'm done. Truce?
Mark offered his hand to shake, and I chose to hug him instead. He resisted a little, but then he hugged me back. As he drove me home, he told me about how his dad had gone from ranch to ranch until he finally landed a job. It was there that he invented a farm tool that he sold to a big company, and they paid him millions for it. I was happy that life wasn't so bad for them anymore, but I was still feeling guilty. I was the reason why his dad had gotten fired. The next morning, Mark and I walked into class together, and a few jaws dropped.
Since when are you two friends?
Since forever ago. We just had a little misunderstanding. But we kissed and made up.
Dana stared daggers at me. We didn't actually kiss. Don't scratch my eyes out, please. Mark burst out laughing, and for the first time, I was happy to be at school. Mark and I hung out a lot, And after a few weeks, we were best friends again. And at times it felt like we could be even more.
Listen up, everyone. Halloween party at my house. Theme is Dress to Kill.
Everyone hooted and high-fived each other. When he sat down, he turned to me.
Hey, will you come?
Of course! I wouldn't miss it. Want to buy costumes together tomorrow?
Perfect.
At the costume shop the next day, Mark and I tried every costume imaginable. I was having so much fun teasing him when he emerged from the changing room dressed as James Bond, and I almost swallowed my tongue. When it was my turn, I picked several costumes and disappeared into the ladies' changing room, only to bump into Dana. What are you doing here?
Trying on costumes, duh.
I looked around, but she didn't have any costumes with her. But she disappeared before I could ask. Weird. I tried on several costumes, and finally, I put on a Lady Gaga costume. When I walked out of the changing room, Mark's eyes went comically huge.
Oh, wow. Hot.
I checked myself in the mirror, and the blush on my face was the size of Texas. I guess we have our costumes.
Can't wait.
Mark held the party in an old barn on his father's property. The moment I walked in, Dana appeared out of nowhere like a ghost. Jeez, you scared me.
Good, so my costume is efficient.
Nice broom. Did you write it here?
Ha ha, very funny.
I shoved past her, trying to find Mark.
Looking for your boyfriend?
He's not my boyfriend.
Oh, please, the two of you give each other googly eyes all day. It's nauseating. Anyway, he's out in the tool shed.
The shed was just outside the barn, and when I walked in, Mark wasn't there. I turned to leave, but the door was banged in my face. I grabbed the lock handle, but it didn't budge. Hello? Anyone out there? After a few minutes of banging and kicking, I grabbed an axe and swung it as hard as I could. The door went off its hinges and fell to the ground. I dropped the axe and stormed off to go find Dana. I was so sure she was the one who'd locked me in the shed. When I entered the barn, the lights had been dimmed and slow, romantic music was playing. I scanned the room for Dana, but froze when I spotted Mark with his arms around someone in a Lady Gaga costume, exactly like mine. Mark, who is this?
Tori?
Yes, it's me. Who's that?
It was so easy to fool you.
Dana, what's happening right now?
Dana locked me in the tool shed so she could pretend to be me. By now, everyone at the party was gathered around us watching the whole drama.
Why would you do that?
Just wanted to mess with you.
That's not cool.
Come on, why are you mad? You're the one who said there's enough of you to go around.
Dana, I'm sorry I treated you badly, but please, don't mess with Tori again. And just so I'm clear, I'm only enough for one girl, and she's right here.
Butterflies filled my stomach as I looked into Mark's eyes. You look so handsome in your costume.
And you look so beautiful in yours.
Ugh, I need my witch costume.
Mark and I laughed as we started dancing. It was the most perfect Halloween party ever. The end.
Hi, I'm Myra from Kentucky, and I lived a pretty average life with my ordinary mom and dad, who I thought were good, honest people. I was so wrong, but we'll get back to that. I was an only child, so I got all their attention and I got my way most of the time. When I was 12 years old, I begged them to let me go to summer camp because I heard that Ron was going to be there and he'd been my crush since kindergarten. Rumor had it, he liked me too, and this was going to be the camp that would seal the deal forever. Little did I know that my romantic aspirations would land me in a hospital bed surrounded by confused doctors and nurses. This story gets even crazier, so don't go anywhere. Is she dead? No, she's just unconscious, but she's breathing. More hives are popping up. Oh my gosh! I've never seen this before. What do you think it could have been? Poison ivy? A snake bite? I try to remember what happened right before I passed out. I was walking hand in hand with Ron. We had just explained our feelings to each other after sneaking away from some silly kind of scavenger hunt. There were trees all around us. We looked around to make sure no one was looking, and then he kissed me. It was so amazing. I felt butterflies, stars, bliss, and then I blacked out. My parents arrived while the doctors were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. They tried everything they could, but I wasn't able to go home for another 3 days. When I got home, my parents decided to interrogate me, and I didn't realize it then, but they seemed a bit suspicious. Where were you when you blacked out? Who were you with? What were you doing? I just sat there in silence because obviously I couldn't tell them I was in the forest kissing some boy. Anyway, summer ended and I couldn't wait to go back to school so I could see Ron again. I spent 3 hours choosing my outfit so he could be impressed and ran out the door on Monday morning. As soon as I saw Ron in the hallway, I dragged him into an empty classroom. I missed you so much, Ron. I think we should continue from where we left off. I missed you too, Myra, but I think... But I didn't allow him to finish. I pressed my lips onto his and went in for another deep kiss. Then suddenly, the room went black. And yep, you guessed it. I woke up in the hospital again. I was covered in hives, but this time I had a terrible headache and I was throwing up. My mom was already by my side. What were you doing just before this happened? We need to know so we can find out what's causing this reaction. It was only then I realized I was allergic to kissing. But of course I told my mom I ate some bad fish and she left it at that. Throughout middle school, I had to avoid boys. Ron had moved on, but I didn't really care because I had joined my school's cheerleading team and I was too busy cheering to think about boys. A few years later, I started high school and I continued avoiding boys as usual. I joined the cheer squad and I was having a great time. But after cheering during a basketball game one day, I noticed this super hot guy checking me out. He is totally checking you out, Myra, my best friend Crystal whispered into my ear. Why don't you go talk to him? I don't chase, I attract. If he's interested, he'll come to me. It was almost like he heard me because he walked up to me that minute. Hey, girl, let me tie your shoes because I don't want you falling for anyone else. What makes you think I've fallen for you? I don't even know you. Well, why don't we change that, babe? Let's go out later. Send me your address and I'll pick you up. By the way, my name is Tyrone. I'll learn yours later. He walked away before I could reply. Gosh, he was hot. So what do you think I did? Of course I went out with him, and we had a great time. He drove a Ferrari, and after a few weeks of dating, I realized that his family was really wealthy. He bought me all kinds of gifts and treated me like I was a princess. We eventually became a couple, but something was different about him. He felt comfortable with me hanging around his guy friends. Most guys don't like their girlfriends to be around their boys, but he wanted to bring me everywhere. I was totally in love. His friends were always at his house, especially his best friend Marvin, who was a total goofball. But because his house was so big, Tyrone and I would still have a lot of privacy. And well, I guess privacy is what caused our problems because... Come closer, I want to hold you. Okay, Tyrone, but don't try anything, okay? What do you mean? Nothing. We hugged for about 5 minutes, then he looked me in the eyes and lifted my chin towards his mouth. I quickly turned away. I just remembered that my mom asked me to be home by 5. I have to go, sorry. And this was how I dodged Tyrone for months. I just had to escape whenever he tried to kiss me. But the sad thing is that I could see he was becoming less interested in me. We started hanging out less and less, but it hurt me so much because I seriously loved him. I felt like there was nothing I could do because how exactly do you tell your boyfriend you're allergic to kissing? I was feeling down one day and my mom made me her famous chocolate muffins. She made them every month and I always felt better after having them. That day, I decided I wouldn't take it anymore. I would tell him the truth. When I got to his house, Marvin was in the living room with 2 of Tyrone's other friends, and he looked shocked to see me there. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? I came to see my boyfriend. Is he in his room? Yeah, no, I don't think you should go up there. Why? Hang out with us instead. I thought that Marvin was just being his usual silly self, so I ran up to Tyrone's room. The door wasn't closed, so I peeked in and I'll never forget what I saw. My best friend was in the arms of my boyfriend and they were making out. She was doing things to Tyrone I only wished I could do. I wanted to scream. Crystal, you home-wrecking piece of...
Myra, it's not what it looks like.
Crystal picked up her things and ran out of the room. She didn't even try to explain herself, but what Tyrone did next really broke my heart.
She does all the things you don't. I think we need to break up. Let me explore my options.
Tyrone, you're a jerk. But don't worry, you're going to regret this. I left his house angrily, and when I got home, Crystal was there. She tried to explain that she noticed that Tyrone was losing interest in me, and she was only trying to persuade him not to leave. The kiss sort of happened in the middle of all that. I pushed her outside and slammed my door. I definitely didn't need fake friends like her in my life. Anyway, one thing I like about guys is that they're super easy, and I figure that if Tyrone could run around with my best friend, ex-best friend, like that, I'd do the same to him. I started texting Marvin until I got him interested enough to go out with me.
You know I always liked you. I just couldn't say anything because you were in a relationship with my homie. But I think you're really pretty, and you look really nice in those cheerleader outfits.
Wow, thanks, Marvin. We were strolling through a park after a wonderful date. I asked him to come to my house because I knew my parents wouldn't be there. He sat on my couch watching TV while I texted Tyrone telling him I was in tears and I really wanted him to come over so we could talk. I even told him I'd make out with him if he did. I explained that the door was open and I was in the living room so he could just walk in. When he texted back,
I'm on my way.
I could have jumped for joy. I started whispering sweet nothings into Marvin's ears, and we were getting pretty cozy. When I heard the door open and footsteps come towards the living room, I put my head close to Marvin's to make it seem like we were kissing. But when I looked up, I saw my dad staring straight into my face.
Myra, what are you doing? Stop that right now. What do you think you're doing making out with boys in my house?
Then, to add more trash to the dumpster fire, Tyrone walked in, and it was clear that he had heard everything.
You were making out with Marvin? Marvin, how could you? You're supposed to be my best friend.
He burst out into tears, and it was so satisfying that I didn't even care that my dad had walked in on me pretending to make out with a boy. Marvin, we'll talk later.
Get out of my house, both of you. And you, young lady, go to your room.
It's the first time I was actually excited about being punished because I knew I accomplished something remarkable. I sabotaged Tyrone's greatest friendship, and I didn't regret a thing. I scrolled through my phone and deleted his number along with Marvin's and Crystal's. Now I just had to deal with my parents who eventually burst into my room to give me what I thought would have been a lecture.
Good job, sweetheart.
I'm proud of you, and it seems you've learned your lesson. What are you talking about, Mom?
Well, I know you didn't kiss either of those guys. You're a good girl.
Okay. But how do you know that, and why does it even matter? I'm 16.
We have something to tell you, honey.
You know these chocolate muffins I always make once every few months? The ones you love? Yeah? Well, they've got a substance in them which makes you react if your mouth comes into contact with anyone else's saliva. Basically, we made you allergic to kissing. What? That's insane! But why?
So you wouldn't kiss anyone. We want you to remain pure and innocent because we've already promised you to someone. Basically, your marriage has already been arranged, but his parents are very traditional, if you understand what I mean. The purer you are, the more money we can get for you. They've promised us a handsome sum.
You're joking, right? No. You'll meet him when you turn 18. We've arranged everything. But what if I don't want to?
Then we will stop taking care of you. We won't pay for college, we won't support you financially, and we'll simply disown you. We're your parents, so we make the rules.
I couldn't understand what was going on. I ran out of my room and onto the street with tears in my eyes. How could they do this to me and think it was okay? I was so blinded by my tears that I didn't see a car heading straight towards me. I felt unimaginable pain surging through my body, and then I blacked out. When I woke up, I knew I was in a hospital, but something was different about this room. I was freezing, and when I opened my eyes, I saw nothing but darkness. I tried to lift my arm, and it was then I realized I was in a body bag. I started screaming, but stopped to think of what this could mean for me. If my family thought I was dead, this could mean I could start over and escape from it all.
So that's exactly what I did. I snuck out of the hospital and ran as far as my aching legs could take me. I'm still trying to figure out my life now, but I'm free.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and I'm from Texas. My sister Jeannie and I are in our senior year. Jeannie and I love each other, but it all changed when my obsession with a boy got between us. Ashley, watch out! It's coming right at you! My best friend Holly shouted. I turned to see a giant raging bull charging right at our lemonade stand at the farmer's market. Before I could react, strong arms grabbed me and dragged me out of the way as the bull charged past me into a wooden fence. Are you all right? I opened my eyes at the unfamiliar voice. The most handsome boy I'd ever seen was staring down at me. You saved me. He offered his hand and pulled me to my feet. Oh my God, Ash! That beast almost killed you! Holly interrupted us with her annoying high-pitched voice. Ugh, talk about bad timing. Not now, Holly. Couldn't she see I was talking to my Prince Charming? I turned to continue my conversation with him, but he was gone. I walked around the market, hoping to bump into him, but I never saw him again. A few days later, I left for summer camp, but I never forgot my mystery savior. Who was he? Want to know what happened and if I finally found him? Keep watching. When I got home from summer camp, Jeannie wouldn't shut up about her new boyfriend, Mark. She said that he was new in town and would be transferring to our school that year. We were getting off the school bus when she pointed at a fancy sports car in the parking lot. Look, there he is. The car door opened and you wouldn't believe who walked out. It was my Prince Charming. I dropped all my books and ran towards him. I threw my arms around him and almost tackled him to the ground. I can't believe it's you. I've been looking all over for you. He looked confused for a minute before he finally recognized me. You're the girl from the market. Yes, my name is Ashley, and yours? Ashley? Mark? What's happening here? Did Jeannie just call him Mark? Mark as in her boyfriend Mark? Please tell me this is a joke. How could you do this? Do what? As if you don't know. Mark is the guy I've been talking about all summer. You stole him from me. I'm sorry, what's going on? Ever since you saved me from that crazy bull, I haven't stopped thinking about you. I looked everywhere for you, but somehow Jeannie found you first and made you her boyfriend. Ashley, I had no idea Mark was the same guy you've been looking for. You have to believe me. Obviously, you have to break up with him. Wait, what? Why? Because knowing you're with him hurts my feelings. What about my feelings? I like him, you know, but I like him too. Don't be ridiculous. You barely know him. I've been with him all summer. We were making a scene, but I was too angry to care. Just then, Jeannie's phone rang. She answered and listened briefly, then turned to me. We need to go back home now. Grandma is critically ill. Our grandma lived with us. She'd been in and out of hospital for months, and we knew she didn't have much time. We arrived home and went straight to her room. Grandma, can you hear me? It's me, Jeannie. Although she didn't open her eyes, she lifted her bony hand and touched Jeannie's face. Oh, Jeannie, you always were my favorite grandchild. I have something for you. Please check under the bed. I was hurt. Why wasn't I her favorite grandchild? Jeannie knelt next to the bed and pulled out a metal box. She opened it and took out a tiny glass bottle with brown liquid inside it. Grandma, what's this? Many years ago, a witch put a curse on all the women in our family, born and unborn. She cursed us to never find true love. Grandma coughed for a few seconds, then continued. That bottle contains the only potion that can undo that curse. Take it and guard it when you find a boy you like. Drink it, then kiss him. He will have eyes only for you. But what about me? Don't you have a potion for me too? Grandma didn't respond. She looked like she was fast asleep. But how? She was just talking a minute ago. I grabbed Grandma and started to shake her. Ashley, stop! You're hurting her! I was enraged. I knew Jeannie was going to use that potion on Mark. It's not fair! It's not fair! But I was too late. Grandma had already passed. A few days after Grandma's funeral, I was in my room when I saw something through my window. It was Jeannie, and she was climbing the huge tree in our backyard. Was she insane? I ran outside, and when I got to the tree, Jeannie was already high up on one of its branches. What on earth are you doing? I must have startled her because she slipped and almost came tumbling down. She gripped the tree branch, steadying herself. I was still looking up at her when something fell and hit my face. Ouch, did you just throw a rock at me? I'm on a tree. Where could I get a rock up here?
You tell me you're the crazy one climbing a tree like a cat. You're the crazy one obsessed with my boyfriend. Jeannie was climbing down the tree, fast. I bent to pick the rock to throw it back at her, but it wasn't a rock. It was the tiny bottle with Grandma's potion inside it. Jeannie must have dropped it while trying to hide it in the tree. Obviously, she didn't trust me and was trying to hide it somewhere so I couldn't get it. My hands trembled slightly as I held it in my hands. Give that back! Jeannie was on the ground now and running towards me. This was it. I opened the bottle, closed my eyes, and gulped down the disgusting liquid. It tasted horrible, but I didn't care. I'd drink anything, including dirty dishwater, if it meant Mark would love me forever. No! Jeannie dived and snatched the bottle from my hands, but it was too late. She stared at the empty bottle and fell to her knees, sobbing. When the school bus arrived a few minutes later, I ran and got on it. I had a boy to kiss and make mine forever. I stood nervously in the school parking lot waiting for Mark. The moment I saw him getting out of his fancy car, I walked to him, put my arms around him, and kissed him. Ashley? Just then, we heard tires screeching. Mom's car was approaching us fast. It stopped right in front of us, missing us by a few inches. Jeannie stepped out, looking like she was ready to explode. You kissed him, didn't you? Jeannie pointed an accusing finger at me. There was no use lying now. So what if I did? It's too late. Mark is mine forever. You're so evil. Jeannie started to attack me, but what Mark said next scared us both. Help me, please. I can't see. Jeannie rushed to his side and waved a hand in front of his eyes. Oh my God, Ashley, you blinded him. What are you talking about? Mark turned to me and looked directly at me. I don't understand. I can see you, Ashley, but I can't see Jeannie. What was going on? He will have eyes for only you. Huh? That's what Grandma said when she gave me that potion, remember? In fact, those were her final words. I thought that meant he'd love only me. I never expected it to mean he'd become blind to everyone else, literally. This was certainly not what I signed up for. I took a few steps back from Mark. I'm sorry, I have to go. Please don't leave me, my sweet Ashley. Why was he talking like that? You're the only one I see. You're stuck with me forever, my sweet Ashley. Oh dear, what had I done? So you can't see anything at all? Nothing. Just you, my sweet Ashley. So what do we do now? You stay with me, of course. You and I can never be apart. What about school? You will pick me up every day. But how will you read and write? You'll do it for me, of course. We'll be together forever. I was stuck with him all day. I wrote all his notes and carried his books to all his classes. I didn't know how much longer I could take it. Jeannie was ignoring me, and the one time I managed to talk to her, she called me selfish and evil. I drove him home. His parents were away, so he asked me to make dinner for him and walk his dog Peggy. It was getting late, so I told Mark I needed to leave, but he wouldn't let me go. You can't leave me in this big house. What if I need something? Who will get it for me? I called Jeannie and told her I'd be sleeping over at Mark's. She said, fine, then hung up on me. Mark and I settled on the couch. I put on a movie, but of course, he couldn't see it. After a few minutes, he said that he was bored. Please stop watching the movie and entertain me. I was about to protest, but I remembered that it was my fault he couldn't see the movie. Sure, tell me what you need me to do. Well, since Peggy is asleep, I need you to bark like her. Surely he was joking. Are you serious? Yes, Peggy's bark always soothes me. I need that right now. Being blind is really stressful, you know? Again, I felt really guilty, so guess what I did? I started to bark like Mark's dog. I thought I saw Mark trying not to laugh, but he hid his face quickly. He made me bark for an hour. The following morning, getting Mark ready for school was so difficult. I made him breakfast, then he made me feed it to him. Then he asked me to clean the kitchen and his room. He also had a mountain of laundry, and he requested I do that too. By the time we got to school, I was exhausted. We walked into class, me looking like I hadn't slept in days, and Mark as handsome and clean as ever. He wore dark glasses, and that attracted a lot of curious glances. We were in history class when the door burst open and a woman ran straight to Mark. She hugged him tightly and started to cry so loudly. Oh my God, Mark, what happened? The principal just called us. You're blind? Why didn't you tell us? It's fine, Mom. Ashley is taking care of me. Come, I'm taking you to the hospital now. She took his hand and pulled him to his feet. I don't need a hospital, Mom. I don't want to see anyone but Ashley for the rest of my life. I love her and she loves me. Okay, that was enough. Well, about that, I'm not sure I love you, Mark. I thought I did, but I don't think I can do this. Sorry. But you blinded me. I looked around and saw the shock on everyone's face. I didn't mean to. I confessed to everything I did. From Grandma's tale to drinking the potion to kissing Mark so he could be mine and not Jeannie's. You selfish girl. My son is blind because of you. I'll gouge your eyes out. Mark's mom pounced on me. Mr. Clark, our history teacher, rushed to my aid and dragged her off me. That's when I heard it. Uncontrollable and hysterical laughter. I turned to see Mark laughing so hard he was literally rolling on the floor. And guess who else was laughing? Jeannie! I can't believe you fell for it! I don't understand. What's so funny? There's no such thing as a love potion. Grandma had dementia, and most of what she said made no sense. Whatever you drank was some herb she boiled years ago for her tummy problems. I watched as Mark took off his glasses. He was not blind. I was going to kill them both. You lied to me? Do you know the things he made me do for him? He made me bark like a dog. The whole class burst out laughing. Even Mr. Clark laughed. I hid my face in embarrassment. Well, this has been quite entertaining, but we need to get back to our seats now. Mrs. Perez, I'm sorry your son scared you. Kids are like that sometimes. Please go home. Your son is fine. Mark's mom smiled with relief and left. I went back to my seat and was overcome with sadness. Am I ever going to find a boyfriend like my sister has? I guess I'll have to wait and see. As for Mark, I am done fighting for him.
Sophie, get in here and help me with the dishes.
Mom shouted from the kitchen. I rolled my eyes as I walked out of my room. The thought of dipping my hands in dirty dishwater made me shudder. I just got my nails done. Also, I was about to get my beauty sleep. Mom was fuming, but I was not going to back down.
As long as you live here, you'll do the house chores. Beauty or not, you need to obey me.
But without my beauty, we'll no longer have the extra money we get from my brand endorsement gigs. I'm just saying. That's enough help, don't you think? Mom opened her mouth to say something, but I knew I had her there. I was the reason she was able to afford expensive outfits and jewelry to show off to her stuck-up friends. She couldn't afford to cross me. Hi, my name is Sophie. I know you don't like me so much right now, but if you watch till the end, you'll change your mind. We might even become besties. So please stick around. Also, if you want to watch more exciting videos like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video.
Hi, look, it's Katie and Wayne. They're so cute together.
My friend Gina pointed towards the cafeteria entrance. It was lunch break at school, and we just sat with our lunch trays. Close your mouth before you embarrass yourself. As Katie and Wayne made their way to our table, I tried my best to smile. Katie was my best friend, and she'd recently started dating Wayne, the boy I'd been crushing on since junior high.
Girls, looking hot as always.
Katie blew us kisses as she sat down. Wayne said a quick hello and left. Gina was practically vibrating in her seat. I still can't believe you're dating him.
For the last time, Sophia, Wayne was the one that asked me out. Was I supposed to say no just because you have a crush on him? You have a crush on Wayne?
Gina shouted. Several curious eyes turned our way. A few tables away, Wayne smiled while his friends laughed.
Wayne is not interested in you.
If you say so, just don't come to me crying when he dumps you, I said confidently. If only Carla knew how jealous I was of her. I wanted their relationship to end so badly. I didn't understand why he'd pick her over me.
Katie, what the heck is this?
Wayne looked furious as he handed Katie his cell phone. It was the weekend, and a bunch of us were hanging out by the lake.
Where did you get this? That's not me.
I grabbed Wayne's phone from her and held it out for everyone to see. Oh my God, Katie. That's you kissing Jeremy, I said loudly.
No, it's not. Wayne, you have to believe me.
Then how do you explain this photo?
Look, there's Jeremy. Let's ask him.
Is this you kissing my girlfriend?
Wayne grabbed Jeremy's shirt. Jeremy raised his arms up in surrender.
Dude, calm down. Yes, that's me and Katie last weekend at my house. She never said anything about being your girlfriend.
You are such a liar. I've never even been to your house.
Katie furiously wiped tears streaming down her face.
You and I are done,
Wayne said to her, then walked off. Just like that, Katie got dumped. She was humiliated in public. As everyone laughed at her, deep down, I was ecstatic, but I couldn't show it. Instead, I comforted her. Katie wasn't in a party mood anymore, so she asked to go home. When we got to her house, I lied that I'd forgotten my phone at the lake. Truth is, I wanted to go back and see Wayne. If I was your girlfriend, I'd never do what Katie did. Wayne was sitting alone throwing rocks into the lake.
What do you want, Sophie?
Geez, I'll talk to you when you're in a better mood. I pretended to walk away.
Sophie, wait.
I smiled as I turned back toward him.
The other day at lunch, is it true that you have a crush on me?
This was almost too easy. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
Don't be embarrassed. I kind of like you too.
Of course he did. Him and every boy at school. Wow, really? Then why were you with Katie?
She told me that you'd never agree to go out with me. I mean, look at you.
He laughed nervously. So Katie was not so innocent after all. It made me feel a little less guilty about what I was about to do. I took a step closer to a wide-eyed Wayne, and without warning, I kissed him.
How could you?
Katie walked into class and came straight for me. I'm sorry, Katie. Wayne couldn't keep his eyes off me. After all, I'm the prettiest girl in this entire school. He's my boyfriend now.
I can't believe I was ever friends with you.
You're the one who kissed Jeremy. You have nobody to blame but yourself. My friendship with Katie ended that day. A few days of hanging out with Wayne made me realize that we were extremely different. Wayne was a kind, polite, and smart guy. I, on the other hand, was known as the mean girl all around school. It was a title I'd long accepted. My grades were average at best. Despite my teachers encouraging me to study, I never found the time. College was not in my future plans. I was going to be a professional model as soon as I graduated high school.
Sophie, I need to see you after class.
Mrs. Keller, our history teacher, said as class ended. Something wrong?
You got an F in the midterm exam.
Yeah? So? She looked up from her books, surprised at my tone.
So your beauty won't last forever. You need a college degree, and I'm not sure you'll get one with your current grades. Also, with an ugly attitude like yours, I doubt your beauty will do you any good.
How about you mind your own business? What would you know about beauty anyway?
Young lady, as long as you're a student in my class, you're my business. And I won't have you speak to me like that. I'm reporting you to the principal.
I picked up my stuff and walked out of class. A few minutes later, I was standing outside the principal's office crying.
Sophie, what's the matter?
Principal Hales looked alarmed. I sniffed into a handkerchief and cried some more. It's Mrs. Keller, sir. She called me ugly. My shoulders shook violently as I sobbed.
Please, come into my office. Sandra, ring Mrs. Keller immediately.
He instructed his assistant as we walked past her desk. Minutes later, Mrs. Keller walked in. When she saw me and the state I was in, she immediately rushed to my side.
Sophie, what's wrong?
Get away from me! The surprised look on her face was priceless.
Is it true that you called Sophie ugly? You know the rules of this school.
What? No, I said she has an ugly attitude. I'd never call a student ugly.
Sophie, please excuse us. Mrs. Keller and I need to talk privately. You don't want to miss lunch.
I went straight to the washrooms and washed my face. As I reapplied my makeup, I looked in the mirror and smiled. Then I went out to look for Wayne. Later that day, I learned that the principal had fired Mrs. Keller. The following week, Jeremy walked into our class. I wondered what he was doing there since he was a junior. Seeing him made me nervous because, well, there are things I haven't told you guys, and you're about to find out now. Here for another kiss, Jeremy? I'm not sure Katie is happy to see you. I glanced over to where Katie and Gina were glaring at me.
Cut it out, Sophie. You know what you did. Tell Wayne or I will.
I don't know what you're talking about. Wayne, please ask him to leave. He's upsetting me.
I didn't kiss Katie. The photo is fake. Why would you lie about such a thing? I broke up with Katie over that.
My mind was racing. I needed to get Jeremy out of there before he ruined everything. Whether it was real or fake, it's too late. Wayne is with me now. You can leave.
Not before I show him this.
Jeremy pulled out his phone and handed it to Wayne.
This is the photo before I edited it.
I didn't need to look. I already knew who was in the photo. It was me, kissing Jeremy.
I don't believe this.
Wayne, I can explain.
Explain what? You saw me break up with Katie and you let it happen.
I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. Seeing you with her made me so jealous. I'm the pretty one. You were supposed to pick me, not her.
And what's in it for you?
Wayne was talking to Jeremy now.
Sophie paid me to edit the photo and send it to you.
Everyone looked at me, waiting for me to deny it, but I couldn't, because Jeremy was telling the truth. Why are you doing this? You promised not to tell.
I wasn't going to, but then you got my mom fired.
This time, the surprise on my face was real. Mrs. Keller is your mom?
His name is Jeremy Keller. Duh.
Katie said as she walked over to us. Jeremy narrated to everyone how I lied to the principal.
You're unbelievable. What's wrong with you?
Wayne looked disgusted by the mere sight of me. For the next couple of days, I was the talk of the school. My friends deserted me, and Wayne ignored me completely. He wanted nothing to do with me. One day, I walked into the cafeteria, and a folded piece of paper came flying towards me. It hit me, then landed on the floor. When I picked up the paper and opened it, I was horrified. It was the end-of-year examination results. I had failed terribly, and in a class of 60, I was the only one not going to graduate. My life at school became unbearable. Graduation was coming up soon, and I watched all my classmates prepare for the day. Mom, I think I'm going to drop out of school. I told my mom one evening after another humiliating day at school. I told her about getting Mrs. Keller fired and what I did to Katie and Wayne.
Sophie, dropping out of school is not the solution here. You're a smart girl. I'm certain if you work harder in your studies, you'll pass your final exams and join college.
But no one likes me anymore. I'm miserable at school.
Can you blame them? You were horrible to them. You need to make amends.
How do I do that?
How about you start with telling the principal that you lied? I'll go with you. Then you need to apologize to your friends.
Principal Hales was furious. If it wasn't for my mom pleading with him, I'd have been expelled. My next apology was to Jeremy. When he learned that I told the principal the truth, he agreed to listen to what I wanted to say. A few days later, he told me that his mom was back at school. So, what do you say? Friends? After all, I'm going to be in your class next year.
Classmates? Sure. Friends? Maybe. By the way, after she got fired, Mom started offering private lessons to students with problems in various subjects. Maybe you can join the group. You'll greatly benefit from it. I can talk to her on your behalf if you're interested.
I didn't understand how he could be so nice to me. Graduation day came and went. I tried to apologize to Katie and Wayne, but they wanted nothing to do with me. During the break right before my second year being a senior, I began taking Mrs. Keller's private lessons, and my grades improved significantly. Mom's friend, a college professor, advised that I needed at least one activity to include in my college applications to make them stand out more. He wants me to wash dishes in a soup kitchen? I shuddered. Mom laughed.
Why not? If it gets you into a good college, then do it.
After a couple of days of searching, I settled on volunteering at a summer camp for young kids having a hard time at school. The kids and I were doing some hand paintings and having fun when someone tapped my shoulder. Katie, what are you doing here?
I'm here to speak to the kids as part of my college anti-bullying program. What about you?
I couldn't help but think that the only reason Katie would be involved in an anti-bullying program is because of what I put her through. I'm here to volunteer as well. It's so good to see you.
Wayne is also here,
Katie mentioned as she pointed towards him.
He's a successful college athlete now. I reached out to him and he agreed to speak to the kids as well. Let's go say hello.
I wasn't sure Wayne would be happy to see me, but I was surprised when he hugged me. Katie and Wayne were the first to address the kids.
The best way to defeat bullies is by becoming successful in life. And if they give you a hard time at school, report them to me.
He flexed his biceps and the kids laughed and clapped. When my turn to address the kids came, it was an emotional moment for me. I told them my own story. For the longest time, I was the meanest girl in school. I would do anything to ensure no one got ahead of me at anything. I was a bad friend. I glanced at Katie and Wayne. I thought that being pretty made me better than everyone. I failed my exams and had to watch my friends graduate and go to college without me. By the time I finished my speech, I needed tissues to dry my eyes. Katie and Wayne joined me and we hugged in front of the kids as they cheered.
Sophie, look what came in the mail for you.
Mom held out 2 envelopes. Just a minute, Mom. I'm almost done doing the dishes.
Who are you and what have you done with my daughter?
Ha ha. Funny. I said as I took the envelopes from her. Well, it looks like you'll be doing your own dishes from now on.
What? Why?
Well, because I just got accepted to 2 colleges.
Congratulations, dear. I am so proud of you.
I'd never seen my mom so happy. Well, that's the end of my story for now. Please hit that notification bell, and I might take you to college with me.
Hello, I'm Hamari, and I'm from Australia. Please like and subscribe to STA. Growing up, I was a fun and brave little girl, and everyone loved me. But not everyone loved Marcus, a boy my age at school. He was so nervous around kids, and because of this, they took advantage of him. There was this one time, Marcus was flying his paper plane, and then I saw a group of bigger guys snatch it away. Marcus ran away nervously, but I took him right back to the boys. Marcus, if you keep running, these boys will always push you around. Come on, we're going back for your plane. But it's just a piece of paper. I don't need it. I ignored his fears, took his hand, and marched back to the boys. You boys have something of his, and you will give it back right now. What are you gonna do, shorty? I showed him that dynamite comes in small packages. And after they gave Marcus his plane, he asked me something. Can we be friends? And you can teach me how to be brave like you. Say that again. Louder, please. We became the best of friends after that, and as we grew up, the more confident he became, and the more I grew fond of him. Marcus and I became so close that people thought we were a couple. But he was like a brother to me, and he would do anything for me, like even catch a bee in his bare hands. Ah! Marcus, help! Got it! I hugged him tightly, and then I quickly let go at the sound of my boyfriend's Ferrari. Aaron was my man. We met while starring in a popular teen sitcom. Yep, I'm a celebrity, but I worked hard to get there. Unlike Aaron, whose dad was the producer of the show we starred in. Aaron was also very overprotective. Hey, babe, what are you doing here on the dirty grass? Don't be silly, babe. Where else do people have picnics? As Aaron hugged me, I could see Marcus's mood change because Aaron and him never clicked. I see your best friend has been feeding you crackers and cheese again. Amari, when are you gonna dump this fool? Because clearly, he has no idea what good food tastes like. Marcus loved cooking, and he was always treating me to his meals. Aaron, sweetie, why don't you meet me in the car, and I'll help Marcus pack up. Okay. I can't wait till you see the restaurant I booked for us. Aaron always took me out to the most expensive places, but this time, while we were there, a gorgeous model approached our table. Hey, Aaron, I thought you would be at the club today. Everyone was asking for you. I'll be there later. Just having dinner with my friend. A friend? Is that what I am to you? Just a friend? He looked at me silently, and I lost my mind and threw my soda in his face. Happy Friends Day, Aaron! Jerk! As I walked away, he ran after me, but the blonde girl was right behind him, and I became even more mad. Amari, wait, I didn't mean it like that. Oh, let her go. She clearly doesn't want you, but you can be my boyfriend. I turned into a total psycho when she said that, and I jumped on the girl and started pulling at her hair. And before I knew it, reporters suddenly filled the area taking pictures of me. Amari, you're embarrassing yourself. It's over, Aaron! Don't ever speak to me again! Days later, every magazine and newspaper had my face in the front page, with me pouncing on the blonde girl, and they called me the she-devil. And Mom was on panic mode, since my acting job paid half the mortgage for our house. Amari, what were you thinking? We depend on your acting job to pay the bills. If you lose that, then I would have to work 24 hours at the hospital. I didn't lose my job, Mom. It's just bad publicity. Mom worked as a nurse, and she's been my backbone since my dad left us when I was just 2 years old. I stayed indoors for the past few days, trying to avoid all the gossip that was going on. I refused to leave my room until Marcus entered. Can I come in? I immediately jumped out of bed when I saw Marcus and hugged him tightly. Is that a cheese beanie you have on? Thank God you came, Marcus. She's been sulking in bed for days. Maybe you can also convince her to take a bath. I'm so glad to see you. Where have you been? You look different, like you've been losing weight. Don't worry about me. Let's talk about you. I feel like hiding in a hole for the rest of my life. I'm sure this will cheer you up. Marcus knew exactly how to make me feel better. And when I took a big bite into the chocolate, I spat it out when Aaron suddenly appeared. Mom, why did you let him in? Listen,
Things got out of control that night. I shouldn't have called you my friend. You are so much more, and you know that. The blonde girl was just a groupie. Please, Amari, don't do this to us.
When Aaron wanted to get closer to me, Marcus stepped forward and mugged at him.
This is none of your business, Marcus. She doesn't want to speak to you, moron. Amari, please, let me explain.
I looked at Aaron, and my heart usually melted just looking at his puppy dog eyes. So I gave him a chance to speak to me.
Marcus, it's okay. I'll see you later.
You can't be serious, Amari. He is the reason the whole country is hating on you. Don't make things worse, Mr. Cracker Cheese Beanie.
Marcus looked at me disappointed, but Aaron and I have been in a relationship for 6 months. I couldn't just throw that all away because of a blonde groupie. So I forgave him. Aaron and I worked on our relationship, but Marcus distanced himself a lot from me. I became so focused on my acting, school, and Aaron that sometimes I forgot to check on him until I saw him running to the bathroom holding his mouth once.
Marcus, what's up?
I waited outside the boys' bathroom and could hear him throwing up. And when he finally came out, he looked so pale and collapsed in my arms. I remember that I did notice the weight loss, but I was so focused on my life that I forgot about him.
Everything is going to be okay, Amari. I'm sure it's nothing big.
But you didn't see how he looked, Mom. I feel like such a bad friend.
When the doctor came, I held Mom's hand tightly.
You can see him now. He just forgot to take his treatment.
Treatment for what?
Leukemia? I assumed you knew about this.
I was so shocked, and my heart raced at the thought of losing Marcus. He has been there for me like forever. Even Mom didn't have that kind of bond with me. When I went in to see him, he wasn't wearing his beanie, and he didn't look like Marcus anymore. I couldn't control my tears as he smiled at me.
Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to be sad. Please don't cry. I'm going to get through this.
Marcus always put my feelings before his. I promised to be there for him throughout his sickness, and he asked me to keep it a secret. And then one day, when Aaron held a beach party just for fun, I also invited Marcus, and Aaron showed me a completely different side to him.
Why did you invite him? I thought you would spend time with just me.
Marcus is my friend, and you have to accept that.
You guys want to play a game of volleyball? Yeah, sure. Amari will be on my team. So why don't you just pick someone to join you?
When I tossed the ball over the net to Marcus, he hit it back, but it flew directly to Aaron, hitting him hard on the head. It was so funny.
Oh, so you all think this is funny?
It's just a game, babe.
I'm so sick and tired of you saying things like that. It's just a game. He's just your friend. But you guys have picnics, homemade dinner dates, and now he's here at my party. I guess all my fancy restaurant dates were never good enough for you.
Aaron, calm down. Aaron went overboard and started yelling at me. Then Marcus stepped in, and Aaron completely lost himself.
Hey, chill out, dude. I'll chill once you get out of our lives. Well, I'm not going anywhere. I was in her life long before you, and I plan on being there right until the end.
Marcus and Aaron pounced on each other, and I tried to separate them, but they were way out of control. And suddenly, Aaron pulled the beanie off Marcus's head, and everyone froze, glaring.
Oh my gosh, what happened to all his hair?
Aaron, have you lost your mind?
Are you going to defend this fool?
Look around, Aaron. You're the only fool here. I left Aaron after that day, and my love for him immediately disappeared. I felt like such a fool to love a jerk like that. Because of Aaron, I lost my acting job, and Aaron did all that he could to convince his father to get rid of me. Months down the line, we lost our house. We had to move into a tiny apartment, and Mom worked double shifts, while I focused a lot on school. And it was the end of the year, and school fees were due, but we couldn't afford it. Is it possible for me to get an exemption from paying the school fees?
What are you talking about? It shows here that your school fees have been paid in full.
I was so shocked. I had no idea who could have done something so generous for me. It couldn't have been Marcus, since he came from an average home like me. And Aaron was so yesterday's news. And if that wasn't strange, days later, I found an envelope in my locker filled with cash. The only person rich enough to do all this was Aaron, but it just didn't make sense, so I approached him. I hated being anywhere near Aaron after we broke up, since he started dating a new girl every day just to make me jealous. But it never worked.
Hello, Amari. Have you met my present girlfriend?
Oh, wow. Lucky you, Aaron. Now, did you leave something in my locker?
Yes, I actually did. Your poor mother paid me a visit and begged me to take you back, since your life is falling apart. So I paid for your school fees and donated some cash. I'll take you back on one condition. Tell Marcus you want nothing to do with him.
But you're dating me now.
Sorry, honey. I thought I told you that this was a short-term contract.
I was shocked out of my mind after what he told me, so I threw the envelope of cash in his face. Sorry to burst your bubble, Aaron, but no amount of money can buy me. I was so mad at my mom that right after school, I went to her workplace and found her sleeping on the job. Great! So just because you can't keep your eyes open at your job, it doesn't give you the right to go behind my back and speak to Aaron.
Amari, I did it for your own good. Life was good when you and Aaron were together.
Mom, how could you?
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'll fix it.
No! Just stay out of my business!
But I'm your mother. I will always be in your business.
I felt so betrayed by my mom, and the only person that could comfort me in this state was Marcus. So I went to his house. But when I got to his house, I was surprised to find him sitting with a girl.
Amari, is everything okay? You look like you were crying.
Oh, no. I just have a slight flu. Who's your lady friend here?
This is Amy. She's an intern at the hospital where I get my treatment.
Oh, is she here to give you your treatment at home?
No, we're actually here on a date. I cooked her one of my best meals. There's some left over if you want.
I was so speechless at that moment. I don't know why I felt so jealous. Nice to meet you, Amy. She looked like a sweet girl, but there was this thing inside of me that felt like pouncing on her and telling her to leave Marcus alone because he was mine. I decided to leave before I did anything crazy. The next day, when I saw Marcus sitting alone in the cafeteria, I made my way to him, but stopped when his girlfriend got there before me and sat on his lap. I almost dropped my tray feeling so frustrated, but then Aaron appeared in front of me.
Are you lost? You could sit with me if you want to.
I'd rather eat worms than sit with you. Aaron became such a nonsense, especially after seeing that Marcus had a girlfriend. He even got his father to offer me my job back, but I had my pride. I was shocked when his dad started making small talk. After school, when I was about to jump into my Mini Cooper, Aaron's father suddenly appeared in the parking lot. Talk about being desperate.
I'll give you 2 popular shows you can star in. Just give Aaron one more chance.
With all due respect, sir, you should really stop spoiling your son. How will he survive if your existence comes to an end? After rejecting the job offer to be back on the screen, I decided to start my own little channel on YouTube. Don't be afraid to try different colors, everyone, even if you're struggling to match them up with your cute outfit. Subscribe to my channel for more ways you can have that glam. Within months, I had 1 million subscribers and started earning an income again. I was more than happy, and the only thing that was missing was Marcus. He spent a lot of his time with his new girlfriend, and I became almost invisible to him until our high school graduation.
Amari, before you go, can I have a word with you for a moment?
Yeah, sure. Marcus looked so handsome in his gown, and when he held my hand to take me aside, I felt so many sparks between us. And then he pulled out a paper plane, the same plane that I saved when a group of mean boys surrounded Marcus when we were little. Wow, you kept this all this time?
Yeah, it was the first day we became friends. And I hope that we are still friends, even though I'm with Amy.
When I looked into his eyes, my heart pounded with so much love for him that I did the unthinkable. I leant over and kissed him softly, and just then his girlfriend appeared, and Marcus pushed me away.
Why did you do that?
Yeah, why did you do that? I thought you were just his friend. I found the courage to tell him how I felt, right in front of his girlfriend. Marcus, I think I have more than friendship feelings for you. It looked like he was going to say the same thing back to me, but then his girlfriend whispered in his ear.
I'm sorry you feel that way, but I see you as just a friend.
I never felt so humiliated and broken down before. I spent days crying about Marcus and looking back at all the memories we shared, until Mom became tired of me moping around.
Okay, that's enough, young lady. Remember, the sea is filled with fishes. Now that you're done with high school, you can go out there and explore.
Are you chasing me away?
No, silly, but you need to spread your wings. You're already earning a good living doing that YouTube thing, so why not enjoy life at the same time?
Mom was right. Maybe going on a trip would help me forget about Marcus. So I traveled to China, South Africa, Italy, and when I got to New York, I made some connections with Hollywood producers. And the next thing, I was producing movies. I became a big-time producer, and one day, I decided to fly back to my hometown in Australia on a talent search for a star actor for my up-and-coming production. And Aaron suddenly appeared, and he was auditioning for my movie. If we consider you for this role, are you willing to travel?
Of course. Acting is my passion.
He looked and sounded more grown up, and I was impressed with his performance. I decided to give him the lead role, and then we sat down to discuss the contract.
I'm so glad to see you again. I can't believe you are a big-time producer now.
Yeah, and I can't believe you auditioned for my production.
Well, I'm glad I did. I grew up a lot after high school, and I want you to see that.
Once I felt the discussion was going sideways, I made it very clear to him that our relationship was professional. He seemed to understand, and then Marcus suddenly showed up standing at our table and Aaron looked so angry. Marcus, how did you know that I was here?
Your mom told me that you were having dinner with Aaron, and I had to see you before. We are in the middle of something very important here.
I was shocked at Aaron's actions, but what was happening reminded me of high school. Marcus, I'm in an important meeting. Can we catch up later?
No, I need you to know something. When we were in high school, Aaron threatened to ruin your YouTube channel with bad publicity. He was gonna make up some story about you cheating on him, so I agreed to be in a fake relationship with his cousin Amy.
My heart raced with so much rage when he told me that. I know Marcus would do anything to protect me.
He's lying. Don't believe him. We are meant for each other.
I threw my soda in Aaron's face, tore up the contract, and walked out with Marcus. Marcus and I had a lot to talk about, and I was happy that the leukemia was gone and he looked so much stronger.
I'm sorry that I wasn't with you throughout the worst stages of your illness. Every time I thought of you, I fought harder. Omari, you're not only my best friend, but also my soulmate.
His words made me cry, and my broken heart for so many years was finally healed.
I was sitting on the bench in the park, enjoying the cool night breeze with my date for the evening.
Come here. It's getting a bit chilly.
He put his arm around me and I leant my head against his shoulder. He looked into my eyes and my heart started beating faster. I knew he was about to kiss me. But as he leant towards me, the alarm on my phone suddenly started beeping. It was midnight. I'm sorry, I don't want to go out with you anymore. We're over. If you think that is weird, just wait till you see what happens later in the story. It was the last day of the summer holidays and my friends and I were determined to make the most of it. We had arranged to spend the day at the lake in our town. It was our favorite place to hang out in the summer. I was watching my friends splashing about in the water. It looked so cool and inviting, so I decided to go for a swim. I dove into the water. It was icy cold and almost took my breath away. I started swimming towards my friends when suddenly I felt a cramping in my leg. The pain was getting worse and worse and I was struggling to swim. Suddenly, I went under the water and blacked out. As I began to sink lower and lower, I suddenly saw a vision before me. It was a fortune teller.
You have to break up with your boyfriend. If you don't, you will die.
What is she talking about?
You have a curse on you. If you don't have a boyfriend every 24 hours, you will die. This near drowning is a warning of that.
Suddenly, I felt arms around my body, dragging me up to the surface. I felt myself being pulled onto the grass at the side of the lake. My chest was being pumped and somebody was blowing air into my mouth. I started sputtering and coughing. When I opened my eyes, I saw that it was my boyfriend Trevor that saved my life. All of my friends were gathered around me, concerned look on their faces.
Katie, are you okay? We thought you were going to die.
I thought about the fortune teller's words. She was right. I had almost drowned. Even though I loved Trevor so much, I knew that I couldn't stay with him. If I did, then I would die. So instead of thanking him for saving my life, I stood up and told him right in front of everyone, "We're over, Trevor. I don't want to see you anymore." His face fell in shock.
What? But why? What did I do?
My heart almost broke and I saw how distraught he was, but I couldn't risk it. I had to break up with him if I wanted to stay alive. It is what it is, you'll just have to deal with it. Everyone around me gasped. I could tell that they were shocked at the way I was treating Trevor, but I just ignored them. I guess I'll see you around. I grabbed my bag and left. I didn't have to look back to know that they were all standing, watching me walk away. When I got to school the next day, everyone wanted to know what had happened, including Trevor.
I just don't understand, Katie. We were so happy. Why would you want to throw all that away?
Trevor's right. You guys were great together. What happened?
I could hardly tell them about my vision. Could I? I mean, they would probably just laugh it off and tell me not to be silly. But I couldn't risk it. So instead, I made up some excuse. Look, Trevor, just accept it. I hate you, okay?
Katie, how can you be so rude? Trevor saved your life and this is how you treat him?
I could see by the looks on my friends' faces that they thought I was being mean and rude. But what choice did I have? Trevor just looked hurt and confused. It was difficult standing there lying to Trevor and my friends. Of course I didn't hate him. I loved him with all of my heart. I was terrified of the curse. I didn't want to die, so I ignored the pain in my heart and went to look for a guy to date. You remember, the fortune teller told me that I must have a new boyfriend every 24 hours. Well, I didn't have much time. I needed to find my boyfriend for that day. When I got to my locker, I saw a guy standing on his own. He looked cute, so I went over and smiled at him. "Hi there, I'm Katie." He smiled back at me.
Hi, Katie. I'm Mike.
Look, you might think that this is a bit forward of me, but, well, would you like to go out with me today?
Sure, why not?
It had never been difficult for me to get a boyfriend. In fact, my problem had always been trying to fend off guys' attention. You see, I had always been known as the hottest girl in the school. Everyone wanted to date me, but I only had eyes for Trevor. He was my one true love. But I couldn't think about it. I had to date other people if I wanted to stay alive. At lunchtime, Mike and I walked into the canteen together, hand in hand. I could see the hurt look on Trevor's face when he caught sight of us. Even though I felt terrible for causing him so much pain, I just walked past him, pretending I didn't care. Mike wasn't really my kind of guy. I mean, he was nice enough, but nowhere near as special as Trevor. So when it came to the end of the evening, it wasn't difficult for me to break up with him. Sorry, Mike, no hard feelings, yeah? It's just that I don't think we're right for each other.
Sure, no problem.
The next day, I did the same thing again. I found some random guy and asked him to be my boyfriend. And at the end of the day, I finished with him. Day after day, I did the same thing. Every 24 hours, I had a new boyfriend. It wasn't the way I wanted to live my life, but there was nothing else I could do. But eventually, it became too tiring. It was difficult meeting new guys every day, and it wasn't long before I had dated every guy in the school. Now what am I going to do? I've dated everyone. There's no one left to ask out. I started to panic. If I don't find someone to date, I'm going to die. The thought did cross my mind that I should date one of the teachers, but I quickly dismissed it. What about if I dated a girl? But no, the fortune teller specifically said I must have a new boyfriend every 24 hours. What am I gonna do? I decided that I would go into town and look for a boyfriend there. It wasn't as easy as dating a boy at school. The guys in town were older, and I wasn't confident that they would want to date me. But I had to try. When I got to the town car park, I saw a boy sitting on a motorbike. He looked kinda cute, and as I walked towards him, he gave me a smile.
Hello, where are you going, pretty lady?
Well, that sounds promising. He thinks I'm pretty. Oh, just shopping, you know. How about you?
Oh, I'm just on my way home.
I knew that I had to grab the opportunity whilst I could. So I just asked him straight out. Would you like to go to the park with me? I mean, like, you know, as my boyfriend. I waited for a moment, my heart beating nervously.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Phew. I breathed a sigh of relief. I'd done it. I had my new boyfriend for the day. I'm Katie, by the way.
Brian.
Shall we go then, Brian? The two of us walked off to the park together, and he seemed like a nice enough guy. Nothing like my Trevor, of course. Stop it. You have to forget about Trevor. We sat down on the bench and enjoyed the cool night breeze. He put his arm around me, and I leant my head against his shoulder. He looked into my eyes, and my heart started beating faster. I knew he was about to kiss me. But as he leant towards me, the alarm on my phone suddenly started beeping. It was midnight. I'm sorry, I don't want to go out with you anymore. We're over. As I ran out of the park, I could hear his angry voice yelling at me from behind.
Hey, that's not cool! Who do you think you are?
By the next morning, I had totally forgotten about Brian. He meant nothing to me. He was just one out of hundreds of guys. But it seemed that Brian hadn't forgotten about me, because when I arrived at school, he was waiting outside the school gates for me. What are you doing here? I could see by his face that he wasn't very happy with me.
No one breaks up with me! You can't treat me like that!
Look, I'm sorry, okay?
No, it's not okay.
He started screaming and shouting at me.
Do you really think I'm going to let you get away with treating me badly? Hey man, leave her alone.
I turned and I saw Trevor standing behind me.
What's it got to do with you? It's got everything to do with me. I'm Katie's friend. I don't care who you are. Stay out of my business. And what if I don't?
Brian suddenly lost his temper. He lunged at Trevor and started punching him and kicking him. Stop! Stop it! But they didn't stop. They were both throwing punches left, right, and center. I was so scared. I didn't want Trevor to get hurt, but it didn't matter what I said. They just kept on fighting.
Hey, break it up, you two.
I was so relieved to see two teachers coming running towards us. One of them grabbed hold of Brian, and the other got hold of Trevor.
Come on, that's enough now.
I don't know who you are, but you need to get out of here. Trevor, you go into school, come to my room straight after school for an hour's detention.
I didn't see Trevor for the rest of the day, so I didn't get a chance to thank him for coming to my rescue. So when the bell went to say it was the end of the school day, instead of going straight home, I decided I would wait around until Trevor had finished his detention. I stood outside the school gates for what seemed like an eternity, and eventually I saw Trevor coming out of the school building. Trevor! He smiled at me.
Hi, Katie.
If you hadn't come along and rescued me, I don't know what he might have done. I don't know how I can thank you enough.
Well, there is one way you could thank me.
Anything, just tell me what it is.
You could give me an honest answer to my question.
What question?
Why did you break up with me?
I took a sharp breath. What should I do? Should I tell him about my vision? What if he just laughs it off? I decided that I owed him an explanation. He had done so much for me, the least I could do was tell him the truth. Do you remember the day at the lake, when I almost drowned?
How could I forget? It was the day you finished with me.
Well, when I went underwater, I had a kind of vision.
Go on.
I saw a fortune teller and she told me that I had to break up with you.
But why would she say that? And more to the point, why would you do what she said?
Because she told me that I had to have a new boyfriend every 24 hours or I would die. She said that the near drowning was a warning of what was to come. I expected Trevor to burst out laughing, but he didn't. Do you think I'm stupid?
No, of course I don't. I totally understand why you did what you did. Anyway, as long as you were safe, that's all that matters. I'll see you at school tomorrow.
I watched as Trevor walked off down the street. As he disappeared out of sight, I suddenly realized what I had to do. I couldn't live my life the way some fortune teller told me to. I knew that I had to make my own destiny. I started running down the street after Trevor. Trevor, wait, wait. When I eventually caught up to Trevor, I was out of breath. I'm...
Stop. Take a breath.
I'm sorry. I should have never broken up with you. I love you.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that I want you back. I want you to give me a second chance. I waited for him to answer. My stomach was in knots and my heart was beating madly.
Of course I will. I never stopped loving you.
That was 10 years ago. Trevor and I are now married and we have 2 beautiful kids. Obviously, nothing bad happened to me. I learned not to take things too seriously and not to get too stuck in my own head.
I'm Brad, and this is the story of how my boyfriend ended up talking to me only for money. You may be wondering how that happened. Well, stay tuned to find out. Also, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more crazy stories like this one. It all started in junior year of high school. I had just moved from my previous home because my dad had a new job transfer, so I had to say goodbye to all my friends, family, and past life. It sucked. I was really close with my grandparents, and I hated having to say goodbye to them. I remember when we hugged for the last time before we left for the airport. My grandma leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Don't let anyone change you, Brad. Stay true to yourself." I stick by her words to this day. Of course, it was hard saying goodbye to my friends, too. We had been going to the same school together since kindergarten, and I always felt so comfortable around them. I knew I would never be able to form as close a friendship with anyone else as with them, but I was still sort of excited to discover what new friends I could make. But don't think I hated my parents for it. I understood that it was difficult for them too, and it was probably hard for my dad to have to move all of us to a new home just because of his job. But life is hard, so I tried not to make it any harder for them either. We packed our bags, hopped on the plane, and pretty soon, the next chapter of my life began. Our new home was huge. Because this job transfer had been a big step up for our family's income. I guess you would call us rich, though I didn't really feel like one of those rich families in the neighborhood. Sure, we had a big house and a big garden and plenty of stuff, but we were still humble at heart. And that's what I loved especially about my parents. They were always so down to earth, so they didn't let this newfound wealth change them. Moving to the new school was difficult, to say the least, especially since I didn't know anyone. It was a small school too, so everyone was either in tight-knit groups or had long-lasting friendships of 10 plus years. I was the new kid and no one wanted to talk to me. No one wanted anything to do with me. I remember walking into my first class on that first day of school. As I walked in, everyone glanced up and stared at me. The way they were staring at me, I may as well have been an alien. Like, they just kept staring. It was pretty rude. Then the teacher came in and told everyone to sit, and I was stuck at the very back, pretty much on my own. No one spoke to me. No one asked my name. The teacher must have forgotten to introduce me because he didn't ask me to stand at the front of the class like most students did. He just moved on to the lesson, and I was too embarrassed to raise my hand and introduce myself. For lunch, I brought my sandwich and apple and sat on a table on my own. I could feel eyes on me as everyone stared at the new kid, but no one bothered to help me out. Why wouldn't they? I remembered at my old school, whenever there was a new kid, I would immediately go out of my way to help them feel comfortable. Why wasn't anyone doing that for me? I realized that maybe there wasn't anyone like that at this school, which meant I had to make friends for myself. I stood up and walked over to another lunch table. There were a bunch of girls sitting there, and I introduced myself. "Hi," I said nervously. "I'm Brad. Do you mind if I sit here?" At first, no one said anything. I was terrified they would reject me, but then one girl, a pretty girl with blue eyes, spoke up. "Of course you can," she said. Then she stuck out her hand and we shook. "I'm Laura, by the way." Pretty soon, the whole lunch table was asking me a bunch of questions, and then all of a sudden, things had stirred into romance. "So, Brad," one of the girls, a girl with red spiky hair, said, "who would you date out of all of us?" I cleared my throat awkwardly. "Well, actually, and don't be offended, but none of you." They cried out in shock, most of the girls glaring at me. Laura didn't glare, she just smiled in understanding. "That's rude," said the red spiky-haired girl. "I'm sorry, it's just, I like guys, not girls," I said. "Oh," she replied. Then she looked at her friends and her face went red. Well, things went downhill from there. I guess I had never really considered how my sexuality might affect my classmates at this new school, because back home things were fine. I came out to my parents when I was around 12, and they had been so accepting. They actually admitted that they had suspected I was gay when I was even younger. We always laughed about that. My friends were equally as accepting. My best friend John, who was straight by the way, thought it was so brave of me to come out and stay true to myself, and I was always grateful to him for that. Of course, there were challenges. Not many, but a few kids at my old school would tease me about being gay. But then my friends would swoop in and attack them for teasing me about it. So when I moved to this new school, I was quite surprised to find they would react a whole lot differently than my old school. The news that the new kid was gay spread like wildfire. Everyone in every year heard about it, and pretty soon, new bullies sprung up, ready to punish me for staying true to myself. One guy called me names every morning and said such rude words that I probably shouldn't say on this channel. I knew he was being such an idiot, but still, the words hurt. For weeks, this bullying continued on and on. I didn't tell my parents about it because I knew this new job was making them really happy, and I didn't want to have to take that joy away from them. So I decided to suck it up and keep my mouth shut. Of course, that was the wrong choice, but I wasn't sure what to do at the moment. I thought my life would continue to be miserable at this new school. I didn't have any friends, and each day brought about new pain from the bullies. But then, at the start of the second term of school, something happened that changed everything. There was another new kid, Danny, who moved to the school, and I thought, finally, this is my chance to make a friend. He was very handsome, and it didn't shock me to find a lot of the girls had immediately said hello and asked him to sit with them. They didn't do that to me, I thought, but I chose to ignore it. Except Danny didn't really seem interested in them. One day at lunch, I decided I should approach him and try to start a friendship. Sure enough, we got chatting, and as it turned out, we had a lot in common. The next day after that, we sat together for lunch again, and again the day after that, and soon enough, we were best friends. But the thing was, I wanted to be more than best friends. I really liked Danny. He was kind and funny, and yes, very handsome. One day, we met after school at his house. I decided to go for it. "Danny, I have something to tell you," I said while we were playing video games. "What is it?" he asked. I really like you, and I want to be more than friends," I said. Danny put down the controller and looked at me. Really? I nodded, my heart beating madly. Then Danny smiled. Good, because I like you too. I couldn't believe it. I liked Danny and Danny liked me back. I asked him if he wanted to be my boyfriend and he said yes. This was too good to be true. As it turned out, it was, but I'll get onto that later. At first, things were great between us. We hung out a lot, we cuddled, and I even had my first kiss with him. But then things started to change. It first happened when we were walking through the park, and I moved to grab his hand, but then he moved away from me. What's wrong? I asked. Not in public, hissed Danny. I was so hurt by his words, but I didn't say anything the rest of the day. Later, when we got back to his house, I confronted him. Why not in public? I blurted out. Look, Brad, I really like you, but my parents don't know I'm gay, and I prefer to keep it that way. Oh, okay. After that, Danny started to ghost me. He didn't reply to my calls, and he stopped texting me. At school, he even moved away from our table and started sitting with the popular kids. It was as if we had never dated. I couldn't believe this. I thought we had something special. I missed him so much. I was dying to talk to him, even just once. And so one day after school, I went to his house without telling him. When I found him in his bedroom, he cried out with surprise. What are you doing here? He yelled at me. Danny, please, just talk to me. I can't bear being apart from you. No, I won't do it, he said. I was desperate, so I just said the first thing that came into my head. If you talk to me, I'll pay you. Then Danny's eyes lit up. Greed crossed his face, and he looked at me, and he nodded. And so from that day on, I paid him to talk to me, even to just hang out with me. You see, my parents gave me a lot of pocket money, so I had a lot of money to spare. Each time I had an hour's session of chatting with Danny, I would pay him $50. A lot, I know, but I was desperate. I had no friends, and I really missed my boyfriend. But then, things got really bad. We were all invited to Laura's birthday party. Yes, even me, and I was excited to spend more time with Danny. But when we got there, he was so cold to me, and that's when I decided I'd had enough. I walked up to Danny and asked him why he had stopped being my boyfriend. He froze in alarm, but then his face turned mean and ugly, and he started accusing me of being gay, but used the word in a really derogative way. I was so hurt by his words, but I couldn't even speak. But then Laura spoke up. There's nothing wrong with being gay, she shouted. Danny, I don't want to see you here. Get out of my party. I couldn't believe Laura would defend me like that. Everyone was shocked by Laura's outburst, and some even had the guts to say she was my girlfriend. But sure enough, Danny left the party. After that, I decided I had to tell my parents what was going on. They were shocked to hear about all I had gone through and immediately said it was time to move back home. I protested, but I was relieved to get out of that school. I am now back at my old school with all my old friends. I'm still in contact with Laura. I actually have a new boyfriend, and he's much better than Danny. He isn't afraid to be who he is, and neither am I. And neither should you be. Take it from my grandma. Stay true to yourself, and don't let anyone try to change you.
My boyfriend Dave was my entire universe. My best friend Karen introduced us 2 years ago. I was sitting alone in the school's cafeteria when she suddenly came up to me and said, "Hey, meet my friend Dave. I think you'll really like each other." After that, we began talking and quickly fell in love. We were so ridiculously compatible. We liked all the same things, and we even finished each other's sentences. We spent every single day together, and after a short while, even our families became friends. We were completely inseparable, and things got serious pretty quickly. I was so in love that I planned out my entire future with Dave. After I finished high school, I'd go to a film school in our area so that I could be close to him. After that, we'd move in together, get married, and start a family. I wanted us to have a happy life, so I was very serious about my film career. One week, I was in the middle of a sci-fi end-of-semester project. This one was big, and it would be part of my portfolio for entering film school. Suddenly, I felt a strange pain in my stomach. Ouch! I said loudly, even though no one could hear me. I left my desk and decided to take a short nap, hoping that when I woke up, the pain would have gone away. Well, there was no such luck. I woke up, and not only was I still in pain, I also started throwing up. What was happening? At that second, my phone rang. It was my best friend, Karen. Oh, Karen, I feel awful, I said. Well, hello to you too. What's wrong? She asked. I have a terrible stomach ache. I tried to sleep it off, but now it's worse, and I'm throwing up, I answered. Did you eat anything bad? She asked. Oh, no, I replied. Oh my God, have you considered that you could be pregnant? She gasped. No, Dave always uses protection. There's no way, I replied. Those aren't 100% secure. I think you should take a pregnancy test, she said. No, Karen, I cannot be pregnant, I said, and I hung up. Although she was my best friend, I found her quite annoying most of the time. She always felt that she was right. I crawled back into bed, curled up into a ball while hugging my pillow, and fell asleep. Amelia! Amelia! I woke up to Karen's annoying and deafening shouting. What are you doing here? I asked. I brought you a pregnancy test. Don't worry, I told your mom I'm only dropping off a book. Go take it right now, she said. I told you I can't be pregnant. Ugh, you're so annoying. Since you're here, I'll just take it anyway, I replied. Leave it on the counter when you're done. It takes a while before the lines show up, she said. I trusted her because I had never taken a pregnancy test before. I followed Karen's instructions. Luckily, I had my own bathroom, so my parents would not walk in and have the shock of their lives. Okay, I'm done, I said as I walked back into my room. Let's wait a while and then we'll go check the results, she said. A few minutes later, Karen said, Hey, if you're feeling too nervous, I can go check the results for you. I agreed and she left the room. When she came back, she had a strange look on her face. Amelia, I want you to know that I take our friendship very seriously and that I will always be here for you, she said. What are you going on about now? Am I pregnant or not? I answered. She handed me the test. I was pregnant. Oh my gosh. I'm not ready for this. I don't know what to do. What am I going to tell my parents? How am I going to tell Dave? Will I need to drop out of school? I started crying. Karen put her arms around me calmly. It's going to be all right. And remember, I'm here for you. Maybe just take it one step at a time. First, you should talk to Dave because he's the father and deserves to be the first one to know, she said. After Karen left, I texted Dave to ask how he was. I wasn't ready to tell him everything yet, and I wanted to do it in person. I asked him if he'd come with me to a forest nearby because I needed to get some natural shots for a scene I was recording. He agreed, and he said he would meet me at home the next day. That would be perfect. We would be alone, he'd hug me, comfort me, and tell me that regardless of what the problem we face, he'll always be there. I could already imagine everything. The next day, he met me at home. Hey, babe, how are you? I missed you, he said as he got out of his car to give me a hug. I missed you too, I said as I squeezed him and inhaled his cologne. Everything felt right in his arms. I got into the car and we left. We drove a few miles and then parked. We began walking down into the forest while holding hands. It was a romantic stroll. He told me a few jokes and we paused a few times to make out. After I took all the pictures I needed for my project, I decided that it was time to break the news to Dave. I took his hands and looked him in the eyes. Dave? I said. Yes, babe? Why did you get all serious all of a sudden? Is something wrong? He asked. I have something very important to tell you. Something that might change our whole lives. I said. What? He replied. I'm pregnant, Dave. He let go of my hand and stared at me in disbelief. What month is it? Is it April? Because this has got to be a joke. Wait, Amelia, are you serious? Why aren't you laughing? He said. He started to pace up and down nervously. I'm serious. I was feeling sick yesterday and I couldn't really understand my symptoms. I took a pregnancy test, which came back positive. I'm really scared and I don't know what to do. I cried. Well, there's no way the kid is mine. You must be crazy, he said. I couldn't believe my ears. You're joking, right? I asked. No, I always knew you were cheating on me. Go find that other guy and let him know he's the father. Don't try to pin this on me. I was planning on breaking up with you anyway, he shouted. My world shattered to pieces that instant. Here was the person I loved more than anyone else in the world, saying the most hateful things anyone has ever said to me. I have never cheated on you, I tried to say between sobs. You were the only boyfriend I've ever had and the only person I've ever had sex with. Of course, the baby is yours, I continued crying. I sat on a nearby stone and buried my face in my hands. It had started getting dark, and I figured that we should probably head back, but I was so hurt that I said nothing. Suddenly, we heard a loud howl in the distance. "What is that?" Dave said, forgetting that he had just shattered my world. "I don't know, but I think we should leave," I said as I stood up. The howls became louder, and it sounded like there were more wild animals lurking around. Dave walked quickly, and I started running to keep up with him. After a few minutes, it was completely dark. I could not see where I was going, and I tripped over a branch and hit my head on what appeared to be a stone. I was in so much pain that I could not get up. "Help me!" I cried. "You're on your own," he shouted as I heard him running away. I couldn't move, and I could hear the howls getting closer. This was the worst I had ever felt in my entire life. I was heartbroken, terrified, and in extreme pain. I reached for my cell phone to try and call someone for help, but there was no signal. I could hear the wild animals getting closer, and I did not know what to do. "Help!" I cried. "Help!" I cried again. It was no use. There was no one else around, and I could hear Dave's car roaring off in the distance. I decided that at that point it was best to be as quiet as possible, so the animals would not notice me. I crawled onto my belly, hid my head in my arms, and closed my eyes while trying to forget the stabbing pain in my head. Later, I woke up to raindrops. The sun was already rising, and I realized that I had fallen asleep earlier. The pain in my head had subsided a bit, and I was able to get up. When I stood up, I stared around, wondering if this had all been a dream. "Oh, thank goodness those wild animals didn't find me," I thought. I walked back to the main road while wondering what I would do next. My boyfriend didn't really love me and left me to die. This would have been easier to deal with if I wasn't pregnant with his child. I reached the main road and decided to hitchhike back to town. After about 10 minutes, a kind old lady stopped for me. "Dear child, what happened to you? You look so dirty and sad," she said. "I'm fine. I just went for a morning run and fell down," I replied. I realized I couldn't go home in that condition. My parents would ask too many questions, and I could not deal with the pressure. So I gave her the directions to Karen's house. After she dropped me off, I opened her door and walked inside. It seemed as if nobody was home, so I walked up to her room. As I reached her door, I could hear muffled voices inside, which was odd because one of them was male and Karen was not allowed to have boys over. I stood next to the door and listened to the conversation. "What do you mean you left her alone in the woods?" Karen said. "I don't want to be with her anymore. She told me she's pregnant and it can't be mine. You know that you're the one that I love and I don't want anything to do with her. I left her because I wanted her dead." "I hope those animals have already eaten her," chuckled Dave. What was Dave doing here? I was confused and angry. "I love you so much, Dave. We've been having this secret affair for so long, and now that you finally dumped Amelia, and she's probably dying, we can become official. Do you love me more than her?" she replied. "Of course I do. You've always been number one in my eyes," he said. "Well, then I have something serious to tell you. I'm the one who is pregnant. When Amelia told me she was feeling sick, I decided to make her believe that she was pregnant, so I went to her house, convinced her to take a test. Then I switched my test with hers. She's not pregnant, Dave. I am. Now we are finally going to start a family. I'm so excited," said Karen. There was silence for a while. "What?" said Dave finally. "You aren't happy?" said Karen. "There's no way that kid is mine. I'm getting the hell out of this house. Don't call me, text me, or try to contact me in any way. This is over, Karen," he yelled. As he walked out of her room, he saw me outside. His mouth dropped to the floor. "You're a real piece of shit, Dave. I'm alive and I'm reporting you to the police," I screamed. "And as for you, Karen, you pretended to be my friend, but you're a disgusting human being. You and Dave actually deserve each other." I continued screaming, then slapped her twice across the cheek. I stormed out of her house and never looked back. I was woken up by a knock at my door in the middle of the night. The knock was soft at first, but it got louder, which startled me. I got up and turned on the lights and put on my robe. I slowly started walking towards the door, thinking who it would be at such an hour. As I approached nearer, I heard, "Miss Sydney Davis, it's the police. Open up." I suddenly stopped moving. It was not the first time the police had knocked at my door at night. It was the third. I got anxious and hoped and prayed they didn't have any bad news. "Miss Davis," the policeman called out again, so I wiped the fearful